Okay, so we'll take a look at what we did last week. And first thing we're going to look at is what was the little quiz that we had to do. So in my classes, what you're going to find is that I'm going to give you a requirement. The reason for that is when you work out in the industry, no one's going to tell you, hey, go design a game. They're going to give you the requirements. What's the game supposed to do? What's the landing system evaluation code supposed to do? So it's good, I think, that you get used to that now. So the first requirement was use the map in the week 1 content folder. Everybody did that. That was good. The second, create a simple script that allowed the user to enter a building number and then see the name of the building. We have a broad variety of the definitions of simple, but overall it went pretty good. Everybody at least tried. And in my classes, if you try, the minimum score you're going to get is half of what the total points are, even if it doesn't work. All right, I want to see you try. You're not going to learn unless you do, obviously. And then the script should include an option for exit. So let's look at this, and then let's talk about the first thing that should have come into your mind. Not how the heck do I start Python, but first thing should have been the pseudocode. So who can give me, first of all, a quick definition of what pseudocode is?
It's planning
Help me.
how the program is going to work.
Okay. You,
Simple.
logic,
It's just a simple, like
simple.
you exiting.
Say that louder, Liz.
Simple.
Simple. One more time.
Simple.
Did everybody hear Liz say simple? Okay. Sorry for those of you online. I pounded on the table. Simple. Pseudocode is simple. It is not, code is a bad name in there because it is not code. It's usually anywhere between 1 and 5 English words or whatever language you're working in that describe what your script is going to do. So we don't use Python code or C# code or C++ or any of the other 4GL language. We do it in English. In fact, you'll find out if I give you a pseudocode requirement, I'm going to take off if you put the code in because you're not to that point yet. And what you need to think about when we're working with pseudocode are what are the major steps in the script that I'm writing and how might I accomplish those? All right. So if we look at the requirement that we had last Thursday for our little quiz, well, the first big thing you should think of is I'm going to have an input. And so we'd have user input. We're going to have to find the building name, and then we're going to have to print it out on the screen. That's simple. That would have been totally an acceptable pseudocode. You might want to go into a little detail, maybe assign a list or assign a variable or create statements that contain a link for the building number to the name. But by and large, just those 3 steps would be all that you would need in pseudocode to define what you're going to do. You're going to get sick of me talking about Tinker and the FAA, but at the FAA, one of the things that we did in the project I was on was before anybody wrote code, the coding team would sit down. There were 12 of us. The coding team would sit down in the conference room, and we would put up on a whiteboard what we thought the pseudocode would look like for the part of the project that we were working on. And believe it or not, we then had an administrative assistant come in, and her responsibility was to use her cell phone to take a picture of everything we wrote on the board. And that became program documentation that we could refer back to for why we had done things. And in fact, several times we actually recorded those pseudocode meetings, conferences, if you will, so we had a record of that. So this is something that you're going to find that in the professional shops that are out there, they're going to do. Do you have to do pseudocode all the time, every time? No, probably not. I won't ask for a show of hands how many people did pseudocode last Thursday. But when you get into a more intense coding environment that we're going to look at when we get into the cyber stuff we're going to do in a couple of weeks, you might want to have pseudocode to give you an idea of where you're going. Okay, after the pseudocode, you've got a rough idea of what you're going to do. Then you're going to flesh it out a little bit. And usually fleshing it out with the next step is a flow chart. How's the data going to flow? And you can take a look, for those of you who weren't with me in the fall, you can take a look in Chapter 2 of the textbook. It talks a little bit about flow charts and how they're created and the different symbols that we use. Again, this is a sophomore level class. I'm not going to nail you to the wall for some of the finite things that go into flow charts. But you should have a good feel about, well, there's got to be an input. An input is set up by a certain character. And then from that input, there's going to be some sort of decision made. And if you haven't worked with flow charting before, again, take a look at Chapter 2. Come and talk to me about it. Be more than happy to discuss it with you. Basically, I'm on campus from 8:30 in the morning till either 6 or 8:30 at night, depending on what day it is. So you'll either find me in this building or over in the digital lab over in HGS, which reminds me, I've got a couple seats left in Introduction to Prototyping. If anybody's interested, you're more than welcome to come in, and they will actually start working with the laser on Friday. So see me about it, or Olivia was brave enough to take the class. You can talk to her about it and get a unprejudiced idea. I assume she's coming back for the next class. But flowcharting and pseudocode, two things when you look at a coding requirement that you should think about, and think about how you put it together. All right? And I'm not talking about the fly-by-night organizations around town. I'm talking about the Boeings, the Tinkers, the Northrop Grummons, the FAA, Chesapeake, Dev, and so on. If they're doing the code properly, they're going to look at a requirement, they're going to look at pseudocode, and then they're going to look at flowcharts. Any questions on that part? Somewhere along the line, we'll do pseudocode and a flowchart, just for something to do. All right. Option 1, I wrote the code in 3 different options, and we'll go through and talk about it. And this would be what you might call the keyed responses to what the test requirement was. First thing I want to mention is that, again, for those of you who weren't with me in the fall, what I would like you to do at the beginning of your code is put your name, anything else you want to put there, and then a date. If you're not familiar with PyCharm, take a look in the textbook. I think I've got instructions for using that back in Appendix A, B, C, D, something or other. But take a look there, and it'll tell you about PyCharm. If we really need a refresher in class, we'll do that and let the people that know it go and do it like the last 15, 20 minutes of a class next week when we'll work on it. And then I highly recommend that you put in a description of what your script is going to do. Right now, this may not mean a lot, but when we get into modules and when we get into some of the things that we're going to do after spring break, we're going to find out that we can go into our different scripts and call out what that description is and get a listing of what our scripts do. So that becomes something that can be very useful in the future. So if you would, at least use the comment symbol, which is the number sign, and put your name and the date at the top of any script that you turn in. Well, the simplest way to approach our requirement, and by the way, some of you didn't catch that you only had to do 5 buildings, and that was fine. You did well. The easiest way to do this would be with a conditional statement, because remember the requirement included a way to exit the program. And so the first way to start off is a while true statement that would be exited if none of the criteria were met using the if statement. And so we'll look at this real quick. While true is a
Keep looping.
it'll keep looping forever until an event is met that will start that loop. All right, and I used a very simple input. My variable is building. I put my input statement in. \n means that it's going to go to the next line before it prints. The two most common that we'll use probably are \n and \t. N, new line, T, tab. And the default tab, I think, in most of the PyCharms is 5 spaces. So I've got a new line in, and I say enter a building number or 0 to exit. Immediately, I've fulfilled one requirement of the test, and that was you need to have a way to exit. So 0 to exit. And then it's just simply a series of if-else statements. If building equals 1. Now, a couple of things we might want to review because several people were a little uncertain. When I use an input statement like this, what type of variable am I creating and building? A string. Helmy, don't answer all the questions. Okay, good. Let everybody else play, all right? So we've created a string here. If I would have said in line 10, if building equals, double equals means does it equate to 1, and put just a numeric value there, it would never happen because I created a string here and a number here. And so to let Python know that I'm evaluating the character string 1, I put it in parentheses. Another footnote, you probably learned in your fundamentals class that you can use either double or single quote marks. My recommendation when you use a print statement is to use double quote marks. That way, if you need to put an apostrophe in somewhere in your print statement, you just go ahead and put it in. And Python sees double quote marks, oh, everything till the next double quote mark is a text. All right, so it views that single quote mark as an apostrophe. If you don't, and you use single quote marks, then you have to do a bunch of extra coding, which you could get wrong. So you don't want to do that. Do I ever use just single quote marks for print statements? Oh yeah, periodically. But I try to do double quote marks all the time. So what I'm doing here is print if it was building 1. New line, print. Now this is a set of braces with a 0 on the inside is administration. And the way that the reason I do that is that this ties in to the .format function that's built into the standard library in Python. And so what this is saying, or what this does for me, is I've got the string set up the way I want it to print out on the screen. There'll be a space before and a space after the answer. Automatic. Python will take care of it for me. And then at the end I put .format and I put the variable that I wanted to print out here. Now, you'll notice in some of the Python books that you looked at, it could have been in the book that you used for fundamentals. Excuse me. There are other ways to do this using escape sequences and pluses and minuses. but this is the fastest and the easiest. And by the way, if I want to change the variable that I use to print out here, I just have to go and change it here, and Python does everything else for me. So that's why the example you see is a dot format command. Again, braces, and we start counting at 0 when we use that command. Okay, else if, I'm saying if we didn't meet the first if, we'll look and see if it's 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, and then I put an else statement at the very end. If none of these were correct, then I'm going to exit. Exit, we use the reserve word exit, and it has a set of parentheses. And people wonder periodically, why the parentheses? Well, going further in coding in Python, you'll find out that you can put code numbers in there to determine why someone exited a program. Maybe it was on an error that was created when they entered data. Maybe they chose to exit the program, several different things. But for now, we just use exit with parentheses. Help me.
I think I misunderstood the question by the exit part. I thought that the user will, if he want to exit, he will put something.
He does, right here. End user, input, either enter a building number, 1 through 30, or 0 to exit. And we know, if you looked at the map, the building number started at 1. So 0 to exit couldn't be confused with the building number. Okay? All right, any good question? Anything else on this? And I think this ran, I can't remember in how many lines. By the way, the red line that's here, I can show you how to set it in Python if you like. And that was basically for PowerPoint and the examples that are printed out in the textbook. And I just left it in there for my PowerPoint guide. So that doesn't do anything. It's just a margin. You can set it if you want to, but the way mine is set is that if a line, I turned it off here. You can set it to where, as an example, this line is too long. It goes past the red line, it'll automatically fold it back in for you. And sometimes if you're doing a lot of data entry, or if you're creating a menu, and we'll see that in a couple of classes, sometimes that's a nice function to have turned on, and we can talk about that a little bit later. So this ends up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 lines. Did I count that right? About 14 lines. And if you did it this way, or just use if statements, it's totally permissible to use if statements. That's a good piece of code. 14 lines, not bad. It accomplished what it was supposed to do. Let me give you another pointer on how I'm going to grade your assignments in this class. Does your script do what it's supposed to do? All right. We've got 22 in the class, 21 maybe, with the people missing. If your code, there are 21 different solutions to every problem that we have up here. I'll be honest with you, I get very suspicious if everybody turns in the exact same solution, okay? And I've turned on the checker in D2L, and you're supposed to be able to see how your code compares with everybody else's code. In a quiz like this, where there are only maximum 14 lines of code, I don't pay a lot of attention to it. But you should be able to see it if you go in and look at the assignment. Which reminds me, I download your assignments, I grade them, I put comments at the bottom of your code, and then back upload it. So you should be able to go in, not right now please, and look at your code and see the comments that I've given you. And really, I thought everybody did very well. You may not have greatly enjoyed the grades you got, but I wanted you to know where you were. Okay, option 2. This can be done shorter, and so we'll take a look at it. Again, my conditioning loop is going to be a while true loop that, as Helmy told us, will run forever until something happens. In this case, in line 8, what I did was I created a list, and a list of the building names. So once I create a list, I know in Python that each item within that list has a number. So I know I'm looking at 5 buildings. I know this is building 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I have to do is add a number or subtract a number. Or subtract a number when I do it. We'll get down to that line. But a list is a very easy way, if I have known values, to go ahead and work with those known values. I can call out any position within the list because I should know what that position is. And additionally, I can move forward and backward in the list. So I could call out building square bracket 2, and that would be social sciences, or I could call out building square bracket minus 2, and that would also be social sciences, because we count backwards, 1 minus 2, and we get social sciences. Okay, so a list function is very easy to use. What's one other unique thing about the list function in Python that I haven't given you yet? Anybody but Helmy. I can include, Helmy, you want to take a guess?
No.
Okay.
You can include a key, or the key for the
No, not quite. Good guess, Olivia. I can include strings and numeric values and hexadecimal values in a list, and Python doesn't care. So I could say administration building 2, 3, 4, 5, social sciences, engineering 7, 8, 9 as numeric values, and Python wouldn't care. I would still be able to reference that numeric value. I'd still be able to work with it, and I'd still be able to work with my string value. All right, so a list in Python is very, very robust. We can do a lot with it. Question?
But a lot of problems I have with lists when you try to convert them to an integer sometimes, or try to put them in lines, especially when you try to read it from a text file. Because that's why I don't like dealing with lists, because sometimes it tell me like it only accepts integers, even though if one of the values were integer.
Okay, now wait. We're talking about your game code. Helmy's writing a game. You're talking about your game code, and our problem wasn't with the list. It was the way we were reading in the file. Come down and see me, and we'll go over it again. Okay?
I make it work though. I started searching online and I made it work.
Okay.
So I'll show it to you.
All right. Okay, line 10. So here we've set our list up. Line 10, again, we're doing a prompt, but this time, because we know, because of the list reference numbers, we're going to have to do some math. I'm creating my input as an integer. So if you haven't done that before, int in Python is integer. Then I put my just standard input command in, and it's gonna, this time the variable is what building. Now notice, this time I said enter a building number or 99 to exit. If building is equal to 99, exit. By the way, there's nothing wrong if you have a very, very short if statement to put it all on one line like we did at number 11. All right? The if statement, the is it equal to, the colon, and then whatever you want to do after it. Saves you space and it's easier to read. And then line 12, if we hadn't entered 99, then we're going to use our print statement. A new line, that building is Again, we're going to use the format command, so we use braces and 0 because 0 is the first element in the format command. But then look what I'm able to do. I've got my list buildings. I take my variable what building, and then I subtract 1. Because I know the administration building on the map is number 1, but in my list, it's element number 0.
Yeah,
Okay.
I kind of did it the same way, but I put a note for the user just to let him know that the buildings start from 1.
Yeah.
From,
Okay, the building starts at 1.
Is that why you set the exit to 99 instead of 0, like the previous one?
Correct.
If it would
Very
have
good,
been
Garrett.
0, what
Yeah.
would they have even came up with? Would they
Yeah.
have gotten Learning Resource Center?
Well, it would have given us, if they entered 0, it would have given us a -1 and probably generated an error when we went out. And we'll talk a little bit more about error handling for those of you that didn't have it. Another question? Okay. So it's very simple. The key here is that in this format command, it's totally permissible to do mathematical functions. And so now maybe we have somebody enter their gross income and they get to pay 30% income tax, so we can take that gross income and take it times the tax value and then print it out. And say, sorry, you're stuck for $20,000 in income tax or whatever. But this one we did a little bit shorter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. If we would have let this line go all the way out to the end, then we would have done it in 5 lines. So very, very simple code. This is just folded back on itself. And with most Python code, you can do that. The third option is just a little bit different. And here we're doing while true. We're using a building list the next time, but this time we've taken out the if command or the if code for exit. And what we did was a very, very simple error handling command. And this is the simplest error handling command. Julio, don't forget to do the survey in D2L, please. All right, have a good trip. All right, what we have, here's the input, and we're going to try the number that was input into our print statement with our format command. We're still doing the math at the end. If that wouldn't work, it'd give us an error. And so we say on error, exit the program. So we know that if somebody enters 99, this is going to error out because our list doesn't contain a element 98, and so it'll exit. And so again, this is another very simple way with an error routine built in for you to look at. Now I'll put the video the video track, and I'll put the PowerPoint as a PDF out in the week 2 content folder after I get everything edited. Any questions on this? Error command, we can get a lot more complicated, but this is one of the easiest error commands to use. It's very, very simple. And if you're concerned about errors occurring in a program that you have, you might try and use the very simple try and accept. And all it does, if this doesn't work for whatever reason, it's going to go down to the accept and do whatever you tell it to do. You might restart the program. You might say, user error, hit the right keys on the keyboard or something like that. But again, this is the very simplest error routine that we can use, and it's very easy to use. What you want to do, if that doesn't work, here, errors out. Questions?
Just can you, I still don't get the idea of the format. just, like, I don't get it. If you just explain a little bit for me about
Sure.
the format, please.
Format is a command that we use with printing in Python. And there are a couple of different ways that we could do this. At line 13, if I did not use the format command, I would have to then put is space, double quote marks, plus sign, building, what building minus one? Building as the list. Then another plus sign, then another set of quote marks and whatever I want to have after that. So this is just a shorthand way to do it. Yeah. This is very simple. You can't make an error as long as you remember you use a set of braces and start with 0. And I can line up as many different variables in the format command as I want to line up. And really, they're kind of treated like we treat elements in a list. The first one I enter is 0, the next one is 1, 2, 3. By the way, when I use this format command, I don't have to start with 0. If I have 5 elements in a list and I want to list the 5th element, which would be element number 4, I could start with 4. The only thing that we have to remember is that we start counting with 0. And those elements within here can be used in any way you want to use them.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
What would happen if you took away the minus one on the what building?
Okay, let's do that. Let's walk through this. One of the books that somebody uses, they talk about walking through the code on your fingers, which when you're learning Python isn't a bad way to do it. So we start off, our user is not going to see number 9. That's our secret, all right? What the user is going to see the first time through is input or enter the number of the building or 99 to exit. And so let's say they want to see the humanities building, which on our map is number 2. So they're going to enter 2. Python's going to convert it to an integer because we use the int command with our input statement. So now we're going to come down to 12, line 12, and the first thing we're going to do is try it. Now we've got a print statement, and what Python is going to do is look at this print statement and go to the format command first. And it's going to figure out what it has to do there. So in the format command, we know that element 0 for formatting is the buildings list. And it's going to take what building, we entered 2, and it's going to subtract 1. So now buildings, brace, the value that we end up here is 0, so we know that the element number of the building list is, it was 2, wasn't it? Did we pick 2? Yeah, we picked 2. All right, so, yeah, 2 minus 1 is 1. We know it's element 1, which would be humanities, and then that's what it would print out.
It has nothing to do with, for some reason I misunderstood you. I thought you were saying you'd have to type 0 for administration if you were the user.
No,
Okay.
no,
I got it.
no.
That makes sense.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to see if you could catch. The user's only going to know the I'll get to you, Liz. The user's going to, I don't want your arm to go to sleep. The user's going to know administration building is number 1. That's all they're going to know. And we don't want to confuse them by saying, if you enter number 1, it's actually going to be number 0 in the list. And they're going to, pardon my language, don't report me. What the hell is he talking about? All right? Administration building is 1, not 0. All right. So we don't even, that's our secret as coders. All right. There are a lot of things we don't tell the end user. Okay. So one of them is we're not going to tell them how we use the list function. So.
I just misunderstood you on that. Okay, cool.
Okay. Good. No problem. Liz?
My question is, how do you know, let's say you leave out the input where it tells the
the person or the inputter to put what building, which is, it says enter the building number or 99 exit, where does it get the 99 to exit? I mean, like,
Oh,
let's say you forget.
you're gonna
to
type
put
it in.
So it had to be in the list?
No.
Or,
No,
It's another one of those things like in the list how they don't know it's actually 0. They don't know. Yeah.
keep going, Garrett.
Basically, they don't know that 99 is the actual number. We can just hit enter and it would exit, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
oh,
They
I
think
see.
they have to hit 99 to exit.
I
So
see.
that's what they're
But
gonna
since
do.
we don't, okay, I see.
If and we joke about this all the time, but I've actually seen it in real life when I have my consulting business. I had a client's new receptionist call me. She was running through the tutorials on accounting software, and she said, "I think I need a new keyboard. I can't find the any key." And I said, "You're kidding me." And she started crying on the phone. I thought, "Oh God, you jerk! What do you?" And she thought there was an any key on the keyboard. So all right, they're comfortable with entering 99.
I see. Okay.
So,
So it's like a magical number. They don't know it, but it's something to give them to exit out.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I mean,
They're just sheep. Just
They're
leave the sheep.
they're sheep.
Well, I'm just like,
Hey.
if you don't enter it, then let's say I forget the 99 to exit 99, and it just says enter the building, but they want to exit.
Yeah.
They're probably sitting and looking at it like, how do they know what to exit? That's what my question was.
We told them 99 to exit. Okay, you could press or you could press enter to exit, and then they'll go, "Well, don't I need a number?" What do you mean? Don't I need a number to exit? I just press enter,
Which is true. It's
Trust me, I'm a
which is
programmer.
next to the any key. Go ahead, louder, Gary.
Trust me, I'm a programmer. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen
I-
here, you user.
And this is meant as no disrespect to the people that work at McDonald's, all right? But a lot of times your end users a week ago were saying, "Do you want fries with that?" And we talk about this in the SQL class and the database class, where entry-level database people, they're just starting off and they're learning what to do. So we build our databases for input to be as simple, absolutely as simple as possible. Okay, I'll tell you, do consulting for computers and programs, and you'll have a lifetime of stories to tell. All right, any other questions on this? All good questions. Well done. Everybody's seen the textbook out in the context folder. And feel free to look through the first 7 chapters. We're going to deal with chapters 8 through 12. There's still a little question about me teaching you all how to break passwords, but if I don't ask again, then I never got an answer, then we'll do it. So, and that'll be later that'll be right before we all leave for summer break, so we won't worry. All right.
So you'll be done with us and everything.
Yeah, I'll be done with you all. And you will have hit 99 and enter to exit, which is right next to the enter key, or any key. So, all right, I have homework for you. This is really, really simple. First thing, don't do it yet. I want you to go out to D2L. You're my guinea pigs. It's the first time I've ever used a survey. There are a list of, I think, 14 different primary functions that we went through or should have gone through in the fundamentals class. I want you to look at those and pick the 4 that you personally would like to see covered in a little more detail in the next 2 classes. We'll do 2 on Thursday. We'll do 2 a week from today. And then we'll jump into making our own modules, which is fun. Second thing, then, is I want you to take a look at Chapter 8. So if I ask you questions about those 14 basic things that we should learn in Python, you'll have a little bit of knowledge for them. Or if we don't pick one of the ones that you really know about, you can ask some questions. And so I'm absolutely positive it's going to take you all 25 minutes to finish that survey, right? The answer is yeah.
Yes.
All the heads go like this. Okay. Absolutely. So if you would, go out to D2L, take the survey. You're going to put in 4 answers, and it's kind of like a matching thing. And then you're free to go. I'll see you at 11 on Thursday. Have a great week. Thank you.
Where's it at again?
Yeah, where is it
It's-
on?